So it's looking increasingly likely that China is determined to do this invasion. You only build these things, and they're very expensive, by the way, probably in the hundreds of millions in terms of cost. And you don't build them if you don't want to use them. It's not just for deterrence. They are probably going to use them. And Taiwan is not just going to surrender. They're not going to do some talks and just reunite peacefully. And China knows that. They're probably preparing for like the worst case scenario, which is like a full out invasion. And the thing is, if worst comes to worst, would the countries in the region, and I'm talking about Southeast Asia countries, and East Asia, basically South Korea and Japan, and all those other Asian countries, the ASEAN, as they call them, Vietnam, Thailand. Okay, not Vietnam. Vietnam has a non-alignment agreement, they don't side with anybody. So, yeah, the rest of them, Indonesia, are they going to risk making an alliance with the US and like the West against China? I just think that's like, it's very unlikely because why would you risk generational beef with the Chinese for the sake of the US, and the West? Because Western countries are not going to be here forever, in that region, the Pacific, wherever, South China Sea. They're not going to be in that region forever. They are already in a decline. So in 100 years or in 50 years, when China is probably going to be a hegemon or whatever, it's going to be a huge power by that time. Would you want to be on the bad side of the Chinese by then? A smart person would probably say no, but some people are just suicidal. So there could be some people who would actually side with the West in this thing. And I just want to make it very clear. I don't support this. I don't support this Chinese invasion. But I'm just saying, realistically, if China actually decides to invade Taiwan and they're not threatening any other countries, I don't see any reason why they should side with the US and risk being on the wrong side of China. I don't see any reason to do that because China is probably going to succeed in doing it in the first place, unless China is threatening those countries. Telling them basically, or like not telling them because of course they're not going to tell them, basically indicating that they're going to be next. After Taiwan, they're going to be next. In that scenario, then I think it would be smart not to ignore China's invasion, and to help Taiwan defend itself. But otherwise, it's probably would be a good idea to just be neutral and just advocate for peace.